Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Insert Buzzword Podcast. Delighted this week to be joined by Ailsa Campbell, Tristan. Ailsa, pleasure to have you both here this evening. To kick us off, Ailsa, could you maybe tell us a little bit about who you are and a bit about your background, please?
Okay, so I'm Ailsa, and I live in Crieff. I'm married with two children, although they're getting older now. My daughter is 20 and my son is about to turn 17. I grew up in Vancouver, actually. We emigrated in 1970 when I was a baby. My dad was an orthopedic surgeon and my mom was a nurse, although she stayed home to look after us. And we lived in the suburbs outside of Vancouver. And I had a great childhood, very free. We lived in where these houses just sort of organically had plots and people had lots of property around their houses. So I spent my childhood playing with the neighborhood kids, riding bikes, climbing trees, playing with our matchbook cars in the sandbox, and it was great. And I went to school there until I was 9, and then my parents sent me to a girls' school in the city, and I commuted from when I was 9 on the public bus to the city and back. Was an hour and a half each way. There was other kids on the bus too. I mean, it was normal. And we didn't have any cell phones or anything back then. It was, 1979. And I'm sure we drove the commuters crazy with our being noisy on the bus. And so I was there from 9 until I finished high school, grade 12, when you're turning 18. And I was on the student executive. I was house captain for Algonquin. We had Algonquin, Nootka, Iroquois, and Huron for our houses. And I was on the swim team. I was a swim team captain. And I loved that school. I think it was formative for me. It gave me, I think, especially with being on the executive kind of a leadership role. And when I was in grade 12, when I came into senior school when I was 12, the school spirit was really high. We had a really cool grad year, the girls there, and then they left, and then the school spirit just kept going down and down. And so when it came to me and my group going into the final year, we had a teacher as a mentor, and she asked us what we wanted to do, and we said we wanted to bring back the school spirit and have pride back in our school, and we did that. We worked really hard. We did all these events. And we brought back the school spirit. Felt good. And I'm very involved in Crieff now, and I kind of linked that back. I feel a little bit like that's what we've been trying to do in Crieff. Is about 10 years ago, the town pride was really low, and I feel like we've been trying to bring it back. Anyway, so I finished high school in 1988, and I took a year off. I had become a lifeguard and swimming instructor while I was in high school. So I did that for half a year. And then I went over here and did portable cooking for half a year. And then went back and did an English degree and then didn't really know what to do with that. I thought about doing law. My mom said I was naturally argumentative and I would make a great lawyer. So I tried. I wrote the LSAT and I totally bombed the LSAT.
Oh, no.
Oh my God, I can still remember that feeling. I'm so bad. Yeah, but I hadn't really applied myself in studying for it because I thought I had this natural talent because I was so argumentative. Anyway, so in the end, I ended up doing a graphic design degree at Emily Carr, and I just loved it. I lived and breathed design. I was living downtown. I practically ran to school every day. And at lunch, I would go in the library and read design books, design magazines. And I did actually worry when I finished design school, I was going to cope in the world with not doing design every day in school. I mean, I knew I would be a designer, but because then you're out in the world with other people who aren't absorbed by design, and they don't see it the way you do. And you realize it's not as important to everybody else. But anyway, so I came over here in 1999 to go to the Glasgow School of Art as an exchange student. And when I came over, that was January 99, I called my cousin Jamie the day after I arrived. He said, "Hey, I'm in town. What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm going out in Sterling with my friend Ian and his sister for the sister's birthday. Do you want to come up on the train?" So I came up on the train, and I got off the Bridge of Allen, and it was pitch black, and he told me to call him from the phone booth, and thankfully other people got off the train with me, because I think I would have stumbled onto the tracks. That was like, I was I was still jet lagged probably from Vancouver. Anyway, met me in that night. Never in a million years did I think, I mean, when he told me he was a baker, I didn't believe him, because I'd never been a baker before. And I just assumed that they were old. I don't know why, like with white hair. Anyway, and I didn't appreciate that they worked in the night. I had no idea. Anyway, so we started dating while I was at the Glasgow School of Art. And I have to say, I think because I was older, I was like turning 29. That was my second degree. And the course in Vancouver was really intense. And I was used to working really hard. And the course at the Glasgow School of Art, I mean, these were kids. They were like 15, 16, still living at home. They thought I was a grandmother. I mean, they couldn't believe I was in this course. And the course load was just so lame. I'm sorry. It was really light. And so I had lots of free time. And so Ian and I got, then he ended up proposing at Edinburgh Airport car park. So I came over to do a term at Glasgow School of Art. Then I worked for the summer design studio in Glasgow, and I lived with Ian's family in Crieff, and I commuted. And then I went back to finish my degree, and he proposed at the car park at the airport. And our daughter Isla is seriously not impressed. She can't believe I said yes. She thinks you should have done something much more meaningful or whatever. Anyway, I went back to Vancouver and finished my degree, came over for good on June 1st, 2000. And I commuted to Glasgow and Edinburgh, working in design studios. I worked for Raven Images in the Merchant City for maybe a year and a half, 2 years. And then we were trying to start a family. And we got married in 2001. And then we were trying to start a family, and the commuting was long. There was more and more work being done that needed to be done at Raven. And I mean, I really loved working there. It was so cool. We would do exhibitions, stamps for Royal Mail, packaging for Matthew Algae, hoarding for property developers. I loved the variety and all the different projects. And I loved the fact that in the studio, we were all together, like with Janice and Ross, who own Graven. So you were amongst everybody. And when I had the work experience before, we had account managers, and you were the designer, and you never got to speak to the client. And the account, so it just seemed really not great, because the account manager would tell you what to do, how to design, or what you're going to design. But you really want to be talking to the client and going, well, and hearing what they're saying. And then is that really the best solution? They might think they want this, but actually maybe it's this. And you could have, so it just blocked the creativity and the conversation between yourself and the client. So I liked it Graven because we spoke to our clients. We did the print inquiries. We did everything. And, and to hear Janice on the phone with clients. So it was a lot of, you learned a lot. And so that was good. But yeah, we want to start a family. So I left in November of 2002. And then it was right and I started working in the bakery, and it was helping with window displays, making gingerbread houses, just everything, all hands on deck for Christmas. And then after that, I set about rebranding the bakery, because it was said D. Campbell and Sons on the front. And then all the bags said Bakers of Distinction, but they were the same bags of distinction that the other bakery on the high street was using. So you're not very distinct if you're all using the same bags. So I went about branding it, and I did a questionnaire with the staff, asking them questions about how they viewed the bakery, what they thought the strengths were, what they thought it stood for, what the feeling was of working there. And I did a questionnaire with the customers as well. And the branding of the Sons that we have came about. Well, I was trying to exude like the fact that it is a very old bakery. It started in 1830, but it's still run by a young generation that is like Ian's seventh generation. It still has like a forward-thinking, young kind of vibe. So I wanted to create energy with the brand, but also, so the sons are like, bread is the staff of life. So the sons, and then the typeface was kind of old, like antique. So that was where that came from. And
did you face any resistance to rebranding, or was everyone on board, or how did that process go?
Yeah, no, nobody really thought that was necessary. He wanted it. He wanted it. But yeah, it took a couple of attempts to get them to answer my questionnaire, the staff. Yeah. But I got there in the end. And yeah, it was a bit different, like when I first moved here, I was commuting to work, but I definitely felt like I was different. And I remember with Graven, I started working there in the summer, after late summer, and I took over. They were doing the Air Chanair tourist guide, and I took over that project. And I was reading, you're writing and you're laying it all out, so you got all this information. And I'm like, wow, Aaron's beautiful. And it was coming up to September and the long weekend, and I said to guys in the studio, I said, hey, should we go? Let's organize a staff like a long weekend there. So we did. And I remember we were on the ferry from Ardrossan, and it was a really stormy night. And we all came across on the ferry. We went and stayed in Whiting Bay, and we went and took over this pub and stuff. And then the next day was stunning. And I was walking to the shop with Janice, and she said to me, do you feel like you're different? Like, are you made to feel like you're different? And I said, yeah, I do. I get that feeling like I'm kind of sticking out. But I didn't feel like that at Graven in Glasgow, So that was nice that she got it, and because it's weird because, you don't really think that there's going to be a difference in culture because we speak the same language, but I definitely felt like I stuck out.
Is that something you felt throughout your life? Was it at particular moments or what?
Not in Vancouver, but I was pretty self-conscious, I think, when I moved here that I was different. But as you get older, as you move on and you start meeting people, you meet people that appreciate that, and then you kind of glom to those people, and you kind of like not want to be with the people that make you feel
embrace your differences.
Yeah, and so I mean, it's weird. I mean, I have a lot of Scottish friends, and obviously, with CCT and everything. And it's just I think it's a mindset too. Okay. It's not necessarily like Scottish versus Canadian. I would say there are people with different kind of outlooks and yeah. So anyway, then rebranded the bakery, and then Isla was born in, and so actually I started helping doing farmers markets. I started to do farmers markets with Ian while I was still working in Glasgow. I would come home on a Friday night, and then it was once a month. I'd come home and I'd go into the bakery and pack bread until 10 o'clock at night, go to bed, get up at 4, come back, finish packing bread, and then go to the market, sell the stuff, and then come back and have a hot bath. I would live for the hot bath and a glass of wine and a magazine and the bath. And then I got too pregnant and too big, so we stopped doing that. And then Nyla was born, and that was lovely. No one tells you that first year with one child, the first year with your baby is a unique thing. You'll never get that again, because once you have another one, you've got the other one in tow, and it's just a whole different thing. So that was a lovely year that I was lucky to have, because I wasn't really working. And then I wanted to work in the bakery, and Ian's mom didn't want to be tied down to look after Isla, give me set days. So I just started doing graphics with these other moms, doing a family newsletter called Knock Knock. I was the designer. Karen was the marketing. No, Karen was the writer. And then we had Ange, who did sales. And the three of us, we did this newsletter that just had articles and things, and we covered our costs, and we were just keeping our skills going, treading water while we were raising our young kids and networking and meeting other people in the area. And then we did that for a year. So we did one for each season. And then Karen moved away. So, and then by that point, I started doing some more graphics for people. I was doing pro bono graphics too, like for the Drovers Tryst Walking Festival. And I'm just trying to think what else. So I did that. Then Hamish came along, and I was getting more and more requests for work. And so I got a little grant through Perth and Kinross to help me upskill my InDesign, the page layout program, because when I finished design school, that was right when InDesign came out, which is which then became the industry standard for page, but I hadn't really learned it. So there was a guy, Scott Russell in Comrie, Adobe certified trainer, that I would normally have to go to Glasgow or Edinburgh to pay £500 to learn. And he would come to my house in between school drop and pickup and train me on my own, like here on my own iMac. And that was great. And so I started doing more work. Like I worked with Comrie Croft, Hugh Grierson, Remake, Stuart Tower. And I think because I had the experience of working with the bakery, I understood small business and, you know, what they were looking for and their budget. So that was good. And then, but it was getting hard doing my work and also looking after the kids. And they started needing me more and more after school because they were needing homework, and it was like swimming lessons and all these different things. And Ian just worked in the bakery. Like there was no 50-50 parenting. So I in the end, in 2013, well, actually before that though, I started to get a little bit involved with Crieff. There was this Crieff survey in 2010 that these guys did. They were really keen to get all the railings painted in Crieff, and they needed to prove that that was something the town wanted. But all this other stuff came up. And I went to the presentation of that survey in November of 2010 at the Hydro. It was a really big meeting. And a couple of times I stood up and said, why, who cares about the railings? The buildings are going to fall down. And, there's already been people killed in Edinburgh and almost killed in Perth. We don't want to have that happen in Crieff. And I think when you stand up and say something, they come up after you and say, would you like to get involved? And so little did I know that would be the beginning of like now, like a whole new, like education basically in community-led development and regeneration. And anyway, so I started doing that, and I kept thinking, I got involved in a little group, and we started meeting every 2 weeks to keep up the momentum and get going. And it was a lot. And I kept thinking, okay, well, after this, I'll stop. After this, I'll stop. And then we realized, so then we were looking at what we're going to do with what other communities did with these buildings and things. We learned about a development trust, and we decided that we would float the idea of a development trust for Crieff. So we held a big meeting in the June of 2011, and we put 5,000 postcards to everybody's doors saying, Crieff needs some love. There's no doubt about it. Crieff needs some love. Come to this meeting. So we had a really big turnout, and we had paper on the seat saying, do you support a development trust? Would you like to get involved, be on a steering group? And we had overwhelming support. We'd invited, so a couple of people from different development trusts, somebody from Calendar, somebody from Dune, somebody from the Development Trust Association of Scotland. So we presented like what a development trust is, what it can do for your community, and blah, blah. And then, so there was overwhelming support for one. And so that was in June. So then the summer comes, nothing really gets done in the summer. So a steering group started in September. And I was also working as a designer, working on with Muthil. They were doing a community action plan. And I realized that's actually a really good thing to do, because it gives everybody a chance to have their voice heard. And it's a democratic, transparent way of getting the community's priorities. And then that way, it stops like the power tripping of people having their own agendas and trying to push what they want done. And so that's what we did in Crieff. We decided to do that in Crieff, and then we launched, and I thought that'd be launched like, I don't know, in the spring, but it was another year and a bit. I mean, it takes a long time getting stuff done as a community. And so this was going on, and we launched that. So we launched the action plan, and we launched the action plan in February, just around Valentine's Day. We did a big campaign, Show Your Love for Crieff. And we got people to come and get involved. And then in March, we set up our Crieff Community Trust as a development trust. And then I stopped doing graphics I stopped my own graphics business because I couldn't do everything, and the kids needed me. And Ian wanted to set up a shop in Comrie, and he wanted me to oversee that. So I joined the bakery properly. Then before that, they'd been a client of mine. And so, yeah, it was busy. And
was there obviously you covered quite a breadth of experience, there's a lot of different experiences there. So was there an overarching kind of theme or skill or quality that you think helped you in those moments, or that you learned from those experiences?
I think that the graphic design, the design education that I had, where you are problem solving and you're analyzing the problem and then looking for solutions, and having that sort of elastic, creative way of trying to figure something out, helped me with trying to figure out how do we tackle the issues in Crieff. And I mean, we did the action plan really because we were born out of this little group that wanted to do something about the drum and arms. And in order to do something, you have to prove to the local authority and funders and everything that it is a top priority for the town. So you have to go and ask the town. But out of that came all these other things that the town wanted done, like paths and marketing and things like that, and transportation. And so then you have this, like, all these different projects. And I think that's one of the things I like when I was saying, when I was working at Crieff, and we had all these different projects. And I think seeing how these projects in Crieff all kind of work together and to make a better town, and make a better place for people is interesting. And I could see how they all kind of joined up. So, and then same thing with the bakery. There's so many different aspects to running the bakery. And although at the time, back then I wasn't involved in the businessy side of things. I was just involved in the promotion, marketing and promotion, the branding. Yeah. So
what would you say was the most difficult aspect of all these different projects and initiatives?
Well, with CCT, I would say the most difficult thing was really not knowing the landscape. We all have our own professional backgrounds and experience, but we were amateurs when it came to being a community group, setting up a development trust. I'd never been on a board before. I didn't know what governance was. I had no idea. And I was kind of not really interested in the board part of stuff. I was just interested in getting stuff done, like the drumming and things. And, and all that, everything, all of it was new, like a whole new, like I said, it was an education, who to talk to, funders, what their criteria are, but filling in funding applications. And, at the very beginning, you get knocked back so much from we'd apply for funding, we wouldn't get it. And I'd be in tears, and you just like, they don't understand. And, it's just, so it was difficult, that stuff. But,
it sounds like, you have almost thrown yourself into lots of different experiences, or dealt with lots of different, from, although you're a baby immigrant in Canada, coming to Scotland, raising family, commuting to Glasgow, studying, jobs, and then the whole phase of community groups and kind of almost, being the first one to put yourself forward to start an initiative or a movement. But is there moments where, that to me strikes as someone that's very confident and sure of themselves? Did you have moments where you doubted yourself, or were you ever just like, what have I done, or why am I doing this?
Oh yeah. Many times. I mean, yeah. But then, you're in it, and it's like, well, you can't stop because you've started it. Mm-hmm. And I'm somebody who likes to see things through. Like I think that I have a certain level of grit and perseverance. Having said that, I mean, the whole thing with CCT, like there have been times it's very up and down, and there's times where you're riding on a high, like just coming out of a meeting with all the other guys, and you feel a sense of camaraderie, and you feel like you're moving forward, and it's nice when you're all bouncing ideas off each other, and you're going in the same way. That's a great feeling. But then sometimes, when you get knocked back by a funder or something like you just come against these hurdles, it can get to you and you feel like giving up, but then you have somebody come and kind of give you a little bit of a pep talk, and or you have a hot bath, and and they pick you up. And I feel like we are, it's, we all have our moments, and we all kind of cheer each other on. Yeah.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Jeremy, do you want to ask a question?
Yes, I would. I've been itching to ask him. Glasgow School of Art, they were the big competitors for us down the road, being a Strathclyde architecture student.
Really? Yeah.
No, there's a big rivalry. And my former co-founder and I, we always said, like, if we could do any degree at GSA, it would be graphic design. So I'm curious as to why you didn't enjoy it particularly.
Well, I would say the reason I didn't was because they had two instructors, and one of them just went down to London and went and worked in London and left this group of kids. And then the other guy, and they weren't nice to the kids. They put them down. Yeah. They belittled them. In terms of like what they had, like when at my school in Vancouver, we had 2 huge rooms filled with Mac computers that week. And they were all the same type of computer, when they had all the same software on each computer. So you could go in and you could work. And, when it came to end of each term, the school would be open till 3 a.m, and you'd be there. And there was this really cool vibe of like everybody just worked away. There'd be music playing, and it was really this creative space. And I came in January, and so the term before, we'd had exchange students from all of these countries, and we just embraced them into our class. We went clubbing with them, and it was fun. And it was not the same in Glasgow. I really was shocked. I wasn't expecting that. And the staff too, like not just the teachers, but the support staff. Like if you went to talk to them, they were doer. I mean, I get it now. There's a thing. There's doerness here. They were doer. Whereas in Vancouver, they're super friendly and heavily carved. They knew how hard we were working, and they were so supportive. It was totally different. But
that's really interesting.
And we were in. Yeah, and so I'm sorry to say that, but
no. So music to my ears. I'm a Strathclyder.
And when I came back and I was looking for work, I went, like before I came over, I had sort of researched design studios, and I'd had a list, and I made some contacts with them, and so I went and met with different design studios, and then at one of them I went to was just an information interview, and they said, this girl's looking for work. Do you know anybody that's looking? And somebody said, oh, Graven is. So then I went to Graven, and I knew that they were major Glasgow School of Art people, and I was worried that, well, actually, when I was going around anywhere, I was worried that, so I just didn't say much about Glasgow School of Art. I was like, oh yeah, it's great. Because I obviously was looking for work, and I didn't want to come across negative. And then I went to Graven, and one of the people working there was a girl that had been in the class that I had been in. And I was like, oh God. But so I was being interviewed, and she told me after, she was great, and we, Lorna, and we became friends, and everything's good. And, but so when I was being interviewed, I think it was interviewing me, anyway, so she was being quizzed by somebody else because she recognized me, and they wanted to know what I was like. I mean, I got the job, but then when I was there, I was talking to the head of design in our studio, not Janice, but the other one. And she did say that she didn't think it was good too. So
There you go.
it wasn't just me. And I was glad that I was able to eventually tell them my story, and they corroborated it,
Interesting.
It's too bad. Yeah.
No, it is. I think
and to be honest, if I had, I really wanted to go to Glasgow because my dad was from Glasgow. If I had, I didn't want to hear about anywhere else, but if I had, I probably should have gone to Dundee because I went to their grad show later that year, and you could tell it was very strong. But I wanted to be in Glasgow, so
That's interesting. I mean, so my experience of architecture at Strathclyde, I would say the earlier years, it was very similar with regard to the way the tutors behaved with the students. I know that it has since changed, and they've taken big steps. And I think this is across like the whole, most architecture degrees in the UK. Like this was a problem for a long time. But the 24-hour access thing, Strathclyde, that's like one of my best memories in the computer lab, doing the all-nighters and really suffering for your art, and terrified of the crit and who was going to give you a beasting the next day. But that's interesting. Graven, I'm familiar with the office. I walked past it many, many times in the Merchant City. I'm curious.
In the old place on Candleriggs? Or?
So it'd be the new. I think it's the big glass fronted thing.
They moved there after I left. I was in the Candleriggs.
So what was it like working in that sort of like studio environment, like high profile clients and creative space? Like, what were your sort of best memories from that?
Well, like I said, we were given the responsibility of talking to the client and, and coming up with doing all the stuff, and emailing them and so that I liked that because we were treated like grown-ups, we weren't treated like, I don't know. The other place was, we were treated like we weren't like fully educated. I don't know. And so I liked that. And like I said, I liked hearing Janice talk to the clients, and it was an education, the whole running of a design studio. And it was hardworking though. We were heads down working. We worked hard. There was none of this like, maybe with Google, lying on couches or playing ping pong and stuff like that. It was none of that. Very hardworking studio. And, and also just learning about, I know Ross saying once that, whether you're designing a helicopter or you're designing, I don't know, a space, you're still problem solving and you're going through the same sort of process, something like that. I can't remember, but it was something like that. Like you still take the same approach. And it was fun. We went to Arran twice. So we had that first year I was there, and then the next year we went and we took over the hostel in Broddock, and Clongoat fell. Well, I didn't make it to the top actually, but it was good. It was fun. It was good.
I miss it, Tristan. I miss the studio environment. It's been years. That creative energy, being with like other creatives.
Yeah, I miss that too.
I think one of the downsides to remote working is that it's often we're working, even if you're working with people, you're working by yourself in isolation. It's that physical or creative ability to like you mentioned earlier about bouncing off each other in meetings or different things is important and sometimes lost when businesses or organizations just focus on kind of results, which obviously are important, but it's, you miss the opportunity to develop something special. So some of our listeners may struggle with the ability to build relationships or put themselves out there. It sounds from your experiences that you found that quite natural. How did you develop those skills or ability to build relationships and to create opportunities?
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just someone's told me I'm a natural networker. I think I'm just curious, actually. I think I'm curious about other people and what they do and how they got there. Like I said, I like listening to podcasts like How I Built This and Founders and hearing about other people's struggles. And I have this thing where I'm quite social. So, it helps. I think I'm quite extroverted. So that helps, I think, being able to talk to people and find out about them, being curious. I think that helps to listen. And then, you have that in your head, and then you meet somebody else and you go, oh, that kind of thing. I mean, I was in North Berwick, and I was with a friend who bumped into someone they knew from a long time ago in their industry. And he was talking about how they've retired in Blairgowrie, and he was saying how his wife's going to become chair of the development trust there. And I'm like, oh, I'm a chair of a development trust. And he's like, really? And how's that going? And I said, oh, it's challenging, but it's better than it used to be. And he's like, oh, I've got to get my wife. So he goes and gets his wife, and turns out that she's Canadian. She's a design specialist, but with retail space. And I didn't realize she was Canadian. So she comes out and we're just talking. And I said, where are you from? Canada. Oh, and then so now she's in Blairgowrie, and I've gone up to see her, and she's come to Crieff, and what they're doing in Blairgowrie, there's some similar stuff going on with Crieff Connections. And the CEO we have for CCT now is, I thought they should meet. So they came and we met in the co-working space, Camden Crieff. And, Linda starts talking about her background, her life. And she's like, and David then starts talking about him, and you can see the synergy, right? And it just reminded me, I don't know if you've watched Ted Lasso, but there's this episode, one of the first episodes, where he's at dinner with Trent Krim, and the taxi driver comes up and they're talking, and he's like, congratulations, you all just met you just met an interesting person, or something like that. And it was the same. It was like that kind of,
that vibe.
I think it's just,
So like the networking and meeting new people makes a lot of people nervous. Like, so if that isn't something that makes you nervous, what does give you the fear, if not that?
Yeah. What gives me the fear? Food.
Baking.
Hey, this wasn't on the script. What gives me the fear? Well, my kid's driving. Not they're driving so much. It's somebody. Them getting that. Well, my daughter drives. My son is turning 17, and now it's like, well, he's just going to have to learn to drive. Does he really have to? He's like, still can't put on the same socks. Like his chapter socks. So my kid's on the road, and just somebody, having to react to not having that experience to react. That scares me.
This is the thing. I was chatting to someone this evening who did research on this, and it was first-time newly qualified drivers are aware of the hazards, but don't have any experience to understand the fear. So they were doing, it was like the sensors on the hand. So like experienced drivers, they would grip tightly and sweat because they get the adrenaline rush. But the new drivers, they would grip tightly but not sweat because they didn't have any experience.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
Yeah. But I don't know. I think with, things like when I was learning to drive, I thought other people can learn to drive. I can learn to drive. Having babies. Okay. You fear the pain. You think, well, women are having babies every second of the day in the whole world, so if other women can have babies, I can have babies. I don't know. I just feel like, and when we went into COVID with the bakery, that was scary, but I knew that Ian and I had super strong work ethics, and we could get through it. I mean, it was scary and adrenaline for us rushing, but we got through it.
In that process,
and then when I started the MBA, that was scary.
Yeah,
I thought, what have I done? The first class was analytical support for decision makers, and it was statistics and stuff. And I hadn't done maths since the 80s, and I was thinking, what have I done? But then I worked really, really hard, and I got 78, which is distinction.
Nice.
Well done. Nice. Yep, I remember that module.
And so, yeah, it was hard. Anyway, and the thing is, when you get through these hard things, it gives you the confidence. I can get through hard things.
Love that.
So
another one for me, because you're a swimmer. You're part of the swim.
I was a swimmer.
Swimming's something I took up 5 months ago, I would say. So I'm like 5 days a week, half an hour, 6:30 in the morning. But what I did was doing hard things. So I was breaststroke for the longest time, and I was like, no, today's the day I'm going to do half an hour front crawl, and I did it, and then it unlocked it in my head, and now that's all I now do, right? So it was that knowing that I can do hard things, then did it the once, and then I've just continued to do it, and it was just like that unlocking it in my head.
Yeah. It gives you confidence. So you build on your confidence, I guess, as you get older, because you do these things and you get experience and you kind of believe you can do more. So
understand yourself a bit better.
Yeah. I know that comes with age.
Yeah. So you mentioned COVID and how difficult that was with the bakery. Was there a point in that time period where not necessarily you knew what you're doing, but you were sure of that what you were doing was, I guess, working or the right thing to do? I don't know quite how to frame it, but it's a big unknown,
Yeah, well, I think if I hadn't been involved with setting up Crieff Development Trust and all the struggles with that, and then doing the setting up the co-working space and learning this sort of like, there's a bit of risk, but it's not the end. It's not risk that's going to like destroy you. Like you can risk. And so that experience kind of gave me the confidence to go in. So when we were in COVID, we furloughed all of our staff except for one night baker. And then Ian did all the day baking, and I took over doing the invoices because he would do them. And I just thought to give him so he could do the baking. So I started doing that and realizing we could really improve how we received the orders from the wholesale customers, because we had closed our shops. So we were still producing for wholesale customers and delivering them. And then I set up an online shop. And that took 3 iterations to get that right. But things like deciding, well, we got a really good email from somebody in the baking industry who gave us sent it to all the people in the baking industry or in the Scottish Bakers Association, saying they'd had a big fire, and all the things that he learned from coping with this big bakery fire. And so one of the things was, cancel all your direct debits except for the crucial ones and manage your cash flow and things like that. And so I had to learn how to streamline, cut costs, streamline processes, deal with redundancies that I've never done any of that before, and also do all the social media. And there was all this stuff that you just had to do it, and you couldn't like hum and haw and decide, you just had to do it. And so, I can't remember what you asked me the question. Is that answering your question?
Yeah. Yeah, it did.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, that makes sense.
The redundancies. How did that feel?
It was quite emotional, actually. I remember the first one I did. I cried. I felt really bad, and I felt guilty. But we did it by, we had some help with like the rules and, whatever. So we were doing it properly. But we knew we weren't going to be able to bring them back. We had been overstaffed anyway. So there was a bit of like, okay, well, this is the opportunity to do that. And then when we reopened, we sort of brought people back, trying to balance furlough and working time. So there wasn't people who were all furloughed but no work, and then there wasn't people who were just working. So we tried to be fair about the blend of working and furlough. So yeah, it was very stressful. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough.
Ooh.
Has the business sort of rebounded at this point? Like, you back to where you were? Or?
No. We came out of COVID stronger, actually. We were a leaner business. We had better processes in place. And then I thought, great, we've come out, we're stronger, we're building up, we're going to do all these things. And then the energy bills our energy contract ended in July of 21. Yeah. No, 22, and 22. And it went crazy, went to 55p per unit. And we got bad advice. We didn't ask around to check with other bakers about the advice. And we were locked into a 2-year contract with this. So it has been crippling, actually. And now and then also with the cost of living, the inflation, our customers' purses being pinched, we've had to raise our prices quite a lot. And, it's a pain in the neck to raise your prices. It is such a pain. You've got to go and, just with the back end of things, export the product library in Excel and do the crease and then put it back in. And then you've got to make sure that's all right. And then you've got to do the price tickets, which are faff and a half. And, we do not like putting our prices up. And so we've had to do that quite a few times. So it's a bit of a struggle at the moment, actually. And I think a lot of small bakeries are struggling. But for us, we're 95 years in Crieff this year. And then next year, it's 195 years. During COVID 2020, the bakery turned 190, or the family bakery, like the full, not just being Crieff, but starting in 1830. So, it wasn't an option to fail. It was, and now our daughter, she's the 8th generation. She wants to take over. So it's like keeping it going. There's a bit of a gap because she is only 20, and her brother, he's in his halfway through his second to last year of school, and they have different skill sets, and I think they would be a good team, and he wants to help and be involved, but I do want him to go and I want them both to go and work other places and make mistakes in other people's money. And come back. But also the baking industry is changing, and our business model is changing. People use us more as a takeaway than a bakery. And Greg's, when I was doing my MBA, I did my accounting and management assignment on Greg's. And, they learned that they saw that they could compete with the supermarkets on their prices, on their ingredients. And so they couldn't be as cheap with their product as the supermarkets. So they stopped being a bakery, and they pivoted to be takeaway, and they used their capabilities and resources to produce for their takeaways. And that's kind of what we're doing, but we have to figure out what the future is, Well,
that would be my follow-on question. Where do you see the big opportunities for the bakery?
Well, we lost all of our day bakers we had 3 day bakers, and they left from October 21 to January of 22. And so we have barely any wholesale now. And we couldn't recruit. We tried to recruit new day bakers, but I think the thing is, it's a long apprenticeship to be a baker. You don't get paid super well compared to other jobs. And so I think we'll be going to using more machinery. And our USP is, one of it is that it's a family bakery. We've been going, from our family to your family since 1830. And the other thing is that it's all made by hand in small batches. But that doesn't really, you can't taste that. You can taste the ingredients, and you'll have a good product because there is the people like Ian making the batches and making sure quality control and stuff, right? But you don't really taste the difference whether it's cut out by hand or it's cut out by a machine. So I think there's that. And then I did a search for what are the trends for bakery in the next 10 years. And it was all about convenience and supermarkets, hypermarkets. And you can see things like Greg's going into petrol stations, and where there's high footfall, and Costa coming in. We sell a lot of coffee, and, Costa's gone into the co-op and things, and that eats into your sales, So I don't know. The other part of Campbell's Bakery's Uncle Jimmy, he's in Callender, and he does purely shortbread, wholesale shortbread, like Walker's, and he's global. We have a joke. He drives the rolls, and we make the rolls. We're on good terms with him. We're just different business models, but need to talk to Uncle Jimmy and figure out how Campbell's and Crieff can pivot a bit into not just relying on the shops.
Yeah. Is there a difference in the Cormery and Crieff shops in terms of of trade?
Yeah, different demographic. And I would say it's much more seasonal. Like when the caravans open up, there's a big uplift in sales. And then when the caravans close, there's a big drop. Okay. And we didn't realize that at the beginning, because we opened in May and we weren't really prepared for that. So we put a lot of effort into stocking Cormery and making nice displays and everything. And then it just fell off a cliff. So we had to really, rethink how we stock it and things like that. So, and there's a lot of competition in Cormery, actually. You've got the deli. There was a cafe, but it's on the market now. There's the post office sells Tower bakery stuff. There's the Spar. And I think Sourdough John is opening a shop also on the high street. So for a wee little village, it's quite competitive. Yeah. So, but we like being in Cormery. And it's,
yeah. What about your ambitions? Are you continuing to support the bakery? Do you have any other kind of plans or after the MBA, do you have any, personal goals to fulfill after that?
I do. So
are they ones you can share?
Yeah. I'm in the bakery and I'll just be there, forever, basically. I do sort of the businessy side of things, and Ian is the production manager, and he's writing a blog now. We're working on a blog for the website, and he's writing down, he's like a pensive from his head, all that he knows about all the different products he makes. Wow. And I want to use my experience that I've gained through setting up Crieff Community Trust and all the stuff we've been doing, and use the MBA to work as a consultant, working with other communities, trying to help them with their organizations, like strengthening their organizations, like we've done with CCT. Because when we got going, I said it was like all about the projects. I wasn't really interested in the governance and things. And then I realized that actually CCT itself as a project, it needs to be strengthened and made more professional and stuff, so that it exists for Crieff beyond our trustees, right? And it's now become like an anchor organization, and so we don't want that to slip, So
do you
work with other?
Sorry to cut you off there. Do you have a preference? Like, is that something you want to do just in Scotland? Do you have would you do it globally, or what's the?
Oh, I had been thinking it was to Scotland, but if there's somebody globally, if somebody in another country wants me to, I'd be happy to go there.
We'll talk about it after the recording.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds cool. So there's that I'd like to do. I'd like to get a non-executive director role. I'm seeking that right now. Probably more like mid-cap, existing business and food and drink, maybe family business kind of thing, where I can use my experience of governance and going through transformation and strengthening businesses. I've learned that. So in CCT, I've kind of, we started off setting up the organization, and we were very much an executive board. I was an executive chair, and now I've become more of a non-exec chair. And so we're creating non-exec roles with CCT, and we've got our CEO in place. So, I would like to get a remunerated NED role. And what else is I wanted to do? Yeah, and just working with the bakery. So keeping that going, keeping it trying to strengthen it. And that's my goal. And also, I am looking to pass on the chair of CCT in probably another 18 months. Okay. Let somebody else take the reins.
Well, I want to look back to the bakery just in 2 seconds. What's your favourite product out of the bakery, Ailsa?
Well, at the moment, we're doing Six Nation pies for the Six Nations. And I would say the Welsh pie, the lamb with mint, is really yummy. That's my favorite. I love our St. Clement's loaf cake. I can't have it in the house. I just keep slicing pieces off. I'll have half for breakfast, half for lunch. I love the gingerbread. I love the shortbread. The mini yum yums. filled rolls.
Oh, goodness, right. That's enough. I've not had dinner yet, and I'm so hungry.
Yeah. I also like the steak pies. They're good. So, yeah, no, I highly recommend lots of things.
Tristan, next time I'm up in Crieff, you need to take me to this bakery, please.
Yeah. Will do. Because I had an office in King Street for a while, so I would often go down to have lunch, but it was a nightmare walking back up King Street.
Well, the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah, it's probably more a reflection of me. But so, what would you say is your kind of, I guess, proudest achievement or success to date?
Well, I'm very proud of my kids. I think they are turning out to be great humans. They are hardworking, on their path, funny. They're good friends. They support each other, and they try hard. And I think so. I'm very proud of my kids, and I'm very proud of CCT, what we've achieved so far, setting up the organization, that we have a good board that works well together. And we've set up our, co-working space where we've got the title, The Drummond. We're working hard on that. And we've brought the groups together in this town team, and created a vision. We're finishing off a capital alignments plan of all the big projects in Crieff for our local authority and for the government, so that they see that Crieff is a joined up place. I think sometimes Crieff gets this reputation that we're not working together. And yeah, there have been a couple of groups that haven't been pulling together, but they are now. And, and it's difficult working lots of different people and different things, but we're all pulling in the same direction for Crieff. So it's just frustrating, because I think what the town looks like is not reflective of all the effort. And it's just, when you're trying to do stuff as a volunteer, it's glacial speed. It's really frustrating. So, yeah.
So I'll ask one final question before I'll let Jeremy ask the final question. But if you could go back and have a kind of conversation with your younger self, what advice would you give to yourself, or what would you say?
I would say that try not to sweat the small stuff. Just try and ride the waves, because if things work out, and if they think, and even if you feel it hasn't worked out, things have a way. And, one door, like, for instance, when I did the LSAT and I totally bombed that, well, that was good, because I wasn't meant to be a lawyer, I mean, I'm much more of a creative kind of person, and we've had to deal with legal stuff, and I just don't have that brain. So, sometimes I really do believe things work out for a reason. And so I've tried to do that. I've tried to ride the waves, not get too stressed about stuff, and just give some space to things, and usually things work out.
Amen.
Brilliant. Yeah, no, ride the wave. I've been saying it myself recently. Just hold the line, ride the wave. So, as someone that has recently completed an MBA, I hope this is an easy question for you to answer. But the name of the podcast, so it's like sort of trying to cut through the jargon. So, what would be a sort of favorite buzzword, or a buzzword or term that you don't like from your industry or profession?
Well, I was thinking about that, and I would say within the community stuff that we're doing, they talk about community empowerment a lot, and how, they want communities to take on assets and things. And actually, I feel it's actually more of a community burden, because the communities, like, for instance, with the Drummond, we're expected to hold that business, the funders are expecting us to hold that title. And it is a huge, huge piece. It's a huge liability. And to expect the community volunteers to have full responsibility for that, that's not empowerment. That's like a noose. And so I don't really buy into this empowerment. I buy it, it's basically them offloading it onto the community. I think that might be a bit controversial to say.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it. That's awesome.
That's my experience. So,
brilliant.
And tell me different. Show me how it's not.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Powerful stuff. Right, Tristan. Yeah. And with that, you closing us out, brother?
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Ailsa. It's been a delight to hear your journey, your story, and hear your thoughts and experiences. And thank you so much for giving up your time, because I know time is precious. So, so thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
And to our listeners, we hope you enjoyed, and we will catch you for another episode next week.